the safely wired.
Safely wired,
and then
okay.
we'll see if Peyton shows up.
And I don't know, yes, I do, okay. I'll find out. So, is it Mr. Woods? Okay. You want to report on that? Somebody?
So EJ, he's one of our new electrical inspectors. So he's the one that went out and observed the violations, so I'll let him present what he found for safely wired.
On, let's see, on Safely Wired, January 21st, 2021, Lot 42, the Maples, went out there to do a re-inspection on the service entrance. At that time, I noticed that P2 electrical vans were on the job. I asked the electrician hanging some Eve lights, who the head electrician was on the job, pointed me to a man inside. I didn't get his name, but I asked him if he had a journeyman's card. He didn't have one. So at that time, I called Robert to see what he wanted to do, because we had talked to Peyton Patterson several times before this about how he needed journeyman on the job and everything like that. So we asked him to leave until they was able to get journeyman on the job. And so, because P2, so that's where we got where P2 was on the job, doing work without an electrical permit.
Did they leave when they were asked to?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, they did. I did stay there and made sure they did leave, but they did leave whenever we asked them to.
Who had called the inspection in?
I'm not real sure who called it in. It was just scheduled to me that day.
I'm taking this as two different companies, though. Safely Wired and P2 is two different?
Correct. Yes, sir.
The case is intertwined a little bit, so
Right.
we've tried to break them apart because they're two different companies.
Okay.
But the case is actually, it happened pretty much at the same time, the same location.
Do we permitted the job?
That's
Safely Wired permitted the job.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Peyton Patterson is actually a journeyman for Safely Wired, but he also runs another P2 electrical. And that's why their vehicles are on the job.
Can you repeat that?
Peyton Patterson, the journeyman for Safely Wired, is also the owner of P2 Electrical. And he's the,
Well, the thing with the journeyman is Peyton has an LLE, so he doesn't qualify for a city license. They came to me because EJ said that they didn't have journeyman. So I spoke with Mr. Woods and told him, you know, I have to have the journeyman application. You also have to supply a proof that he is, you know, an employee of yours. As far as my end of things went, he did exactly, and he supplied a W-2 and he supplied a letter of recommendation that he is an employee of his. So I can't.
How long has he been an employee?
It was for over a year.
Yes, over a year, yes.
I mean, I don't remember the exact date on the application, but the W-2 suffice as his proof. So when he presented that to me, I had to give him a journeyman card.
Did Peyton not meet in front of us for his license back last year?
I think he actually.
I thought we granted him his license. Did he not pass the test?
He must have not passed the test, or he didn't go to get the test.
Okay.
But he did sit before us.
I thought he did,
last
yeah.
year.
Mm-hmm.
So he don't have
He doesn't have a city license, no.
Mm.
how can he tie license to two different companies?
Well, to me, it's not, I'm not looking, he's supplied me with all I need for a journeyman, which is, he's an employee of his, which is a W-2. As
So-
far as if he's running a business, I don't.
I'm part owner of P2. Also, he does still manage my projects as well as with Safely Wired. So that's how they're intertwined like that.
So this citation here is strictly because when EJ went to the job, there was no journeyman
Right.
on the job. And it makes it a little confusing because the journeyman actually owns another company that's not licensed. But apparently he does work for Mr. Woods.
Yes.
According to the documentation we received, so.
It's got nothing to do with permitting or anything. He's just strictly, he didn't have journeyman on the job.
Yes.
Correct.
And the wrong vehicles out there as well?
Well, I don't
Yeah,
think-
we didn't put that in the citation, but I guess technically you are correct, yeah.
So we just have to deal with this citation.
No journeyman, yeah.
And also, while I'm here, I wanted to know, what else could we do to prevent any of this blowing up from here on out? What else do you guys need from me?
You just have to have a journeyman, licensed journeyman card on the job site at all times.
Okay, all right.
In other words, if you're holding the license, for instance, you have to have, your employees have to become licensed through your license, but they have to hold a journeyman's card that you get from.
Okay, all right. So, because I want to avoid this blowing up from here on out, and I do want to keep my license in the city of Murfreesboro, or just period, as a contractor, so.
And the other thing you'll need to do, and I think, according to EJ, I think you've done this, is your vehicles have to be identified as safely wired, your license number, and all that information. It's got to be on both sides of the vehicle.
Okay, yes, and we're working on getting the rest of everything in, so. But the vans, you don't have any more P2 vans on my job sites from here on out.
You know, this information is given to you when you get your license. You have to have a journeyman, you have to have your truck lettered. So everybody else has to do it.
Well, we're not looking at lettering numbers, it's just for.
Yes.
journeyman.
With a journeyman.
Yeah, we have to have a journeyman, so that's what this citation's about. So it's really one account, or one figure.
So on our violations, it's $50 per day. Is that correct for a violation on that?
That's a max.
Mhm.
In the past, what we've done is just. we've usually
Probation
done
or-
One
fine.
one fine.
Richie, I think what EJ, because that's what EJ and I were just talking about, the issue with the journeyman was he did do everything he had to do for the journeyman.
Right.
But when EJ went back out to the job after he got the journeyman, the
He
journeyman
wasn't
wasn't
on
on
the
the job. And work was going on. I think that's where then the citation,
Yeah,
Okay, so
that
you gave.
if that clears it up a little
Had
bit.
a warning the first time.
Correct.
And then you cited him.
Right,
Right.
okay.
If that clears it.
Yeah, if that clears everything
Else,
up there.
on why we're here for the journeyman, when he did register a journeyman.
I make a motion that, $50 fine for not having a journeyman on site.
So we've got a motion, you want to second that?
This was his, he had a warning and then the second time.
Correct, he's been warned multiple times.
Okay.
Me and Kyle Berry both have talked to him about it, Peyton about it.
Okay.
And, so, I mean, this was going on for, I think it was maybe close to 3 weeks when we first warned him about it.
Okay.
Same job site though?
It was the same, it was between two subdivisions. It was between, the Maples and, there was some townhomes off Dorrell Street off of Joby Jackson.
Well, who permits work for P2 Electric in the city?
They don't permit work. P2 doesn't permit work in the city because
But he works
P2
all over
doesn't
the
have a
city.
license. It's safely wired.
Yes.
Which he's saying they're joint.
yes.
They're together. Like he owns both. So safely wired has the city license, not P2.
So if P2 Electric's truck is working inside the city limits, you're the one that's permitted the job, is that correct?
Correct.
I think that's something legal needs to look at. So I've got the motion for a $50 fine, and then
I'll second.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Do we recommend him, if he's continuing with P2, that he needs to get an electrical license for P2?
I don't think we can look at that. This is
Totally.
one citation for one company.
Correct.
We'll,
Okay.
we'll work on that other one in a minute, but I think we need to keep the two separated.
Okay.
And we will warn you that, you know, this, we've been a little lenient on you here.
Okay.
With the fine, but, and this will go in your file, but if you come back before us again, it'll get a little steeper. So make sure
Okay.
you keep your journeyman
On site at all times.
license correct.
Okay. And what were you referring to?
Well, I mean, are you ready to address that issue, or?
Well, we're trying to keep the two apart right
Okay.
now. With
All right.
P2, we'll get into P2 now, or, you know, when we get through with this one. But as far as safely wired, that's the one we just,
Okay,
that's
all
what
right.
we're dealing with you on. We're fining you $50 for that violation of not having a journeyman on, since you was, you know, you were warned.
Okay,
And then, you know, this will go, you know, once you pay your fine, you know, that'll clear you up as long as you walk that line and you know, you keep your journeyman on site. We won't see you again.
okay, thank you.
Well, I'm glad somebody asked for some cards. I've got guys that's been working with me 25 years and never asked to show their cards.
That's just a good thing for you, they know that you're doing it right.
Pardon?
That's just, if it says something about you, they know you're doing it right.
Well, I don't know.
Don't do it right.
I doubt it. I doubt getting them sometimes.
Well, you're kind of like me, you don't want to come up here and face y'all. Do it right, I do not want to see that bug.
Yeah, that's what I said. They'll make an example out of me.
I've had that conversation several times.
And I'm sure it goes on.
Okay, we ready to start again?
Yeah.
Now we'll address the P2 alert. And I guess Mr. Patterson's not here.
He was given notice, I think both written and verbal, if I'm not mistaken, so.
Yeah, you want to kind of fill us in on that one? If you get anything else to add?
I mean, it's basically the same thing we just went over. He's out there, before he got his journeyman card for Safely Wired, he was out there wiring houses, I'm thinking he was subbing out work to other people, because you can tell the inconsistency of the wiring on like townhomes and stuff. And that's what a lot of it brought it to our attention, that he probably don't have a journeyman on these on these jobs, and he's not on them personally. And then we got to looking into it, and that's when we noticed that he wasn't licensed in the city. But after talking to Frederick Woods there, it stated that he was part owner of P2, and, but then again, they still don't have a license. P2 theirself doesn't. But they are advertising theirself to the contractors and to the public that's P2 on these jobs. Because even on their temporaries, they have P2 signs on their temporaries.
They're doing quite a bit of volume of work when I see around town. They're, yeah. I don't know how he's picked up all these contractors that quick like that. I don't know what he's, but he's, yeah.
I really wish we could have made that guy show some proof that he was part owner. You know, I can say I'm part owner of S&W, that don't mean nothing.
The 10th is coming.
I don't want to be. Enough problems.
But yeah, last temporary I done for Peyton Patterson had a big P2 sign on his temporary.
I've seen him, yeah.
If you're in the reserve, yeah.
Yeah, the reserve, I've seen him, yeah.
I don't know that we've got any authority to do anything about that, but I would like to get legal maybe, or is that something that legal should look into? Because I know you can't own two companies that do the same thing. And, you know, according to, from what I understand, you have to be full-time at a company to have your license tied up. But if you don't have a license, then.
See, and that's the thing, is they're putting P2 signs out, but nothing on the permits or anything say P2. It is Safely Wired, which is licensed in the city, that is pulling the permits. And so how it's being advertised, which I, you know, as P2, it shouldn't even be that, because it's Safely Wired. You know, if he owns a half stake in P2 or whatever, but it's Safely Wired that is actually pulling the permits that are legal to do so. So it's almost
But it's Peyton's personal guys that are doing the electrical work.
right.
Because they have P2 sweatshirts on and everything like that.
Yeah.
How many
And I didn't understand if they were part owner, like why
He
didn't
only has
he
the
just
one
put a
version
license in
listed,
P2
which
electric?
is-
if they're
That's the
part
first, I guess I totally misunderstood that meeting from last year, because I thought that's what we did was, okay, maybe it was okayed him to take the test. Is that what it was?
Yeah, that's what we would have done.
Okay, so then he never passed it, and so I didn't know that. Okay.
So I don't know if it's like one of those things where you sell your license and, you know, you're permitting for jobs that really aren't yours and they're actually his. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of what it,
Yeah, that's why I think it, you know, that, I mean, it needs to go through legal. I don't think.
Yeah.
There needs to be some questions asked there if they can. And I really don't know what we can do to Peyton here, because if he don't have a license, he's licensed under a.
He does have a journeyman's card
And he just obtained that.
He just obtained that
for,
one.
for Safely Wired.
Yeah, just a week and a half ago.
And I don't disagree with what you're saying. We just wanted to get him here to make a point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be glad to check with legal and see what options. Now, the other option possibly is citing him to city court, but it may be hard to get the judge to understand exactly what's going on. You know, we got to show proof that it's actually P2 that's doing the work, and that's kind of hard to do sometimes.
I guess I'm a little at loss of what we can do. What I'm wondering if we should do maybe is to table this and try to get him back in here with a notice that if he don't show up at our next meeting, that we will pull his license. That's when you've been summoned to the board and you don't show up, it's like you don't care.
I guess at the least we could pull his journeyman's card.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
okay.
Which, I mean, and I think if we're gonna do that, we probably ought to give Safely Wired notice that
Yeah.
that you need to get somebody else on board, because you won't have nobody to work with.
Yeah, well-
I don't wanna punish Safely Wired again, but yet, if this is a journeyman for him, you know, we can't really do anything with the company at this point, I think.
Yeah.
Well, is P2, that boy from P2, is he on the payroll of, okay, well, he's an employee of that then.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we could actually do anything.
If he's holding a journeyman's card,
Yeah.
you can still pull that journeyman's card.
Yeah.
Journeyman's card.
as far as fines or anything, I don't know anything you can do about that.
Well, we've summoned P2 Electrical,
Mhm.
so we're, I mean, and that's basically what we've got him on, is working without permits.
Yep.
So, I mean, but when he was out there working, did he identify himself as P2 Electrical, or did he identify, was he identifying as safety
The
electrical?
guy I talked to, he couldn't speak real good English. But I mean, they were wearing P2 electrical hoodies in a P2 electrical van. So, I mean, if anybody and I'm pretty sure the builder even like, they go by P2 to the builder. I actually just done a remodel or a job for a guy, or Hayden wired it, and he knows them as P2 electrical, not safely wired. And I actually asked the electrician, the youngest guy that was there, he spoke pretty good English. I asked him, I said, because he said, he came up to me while I was waiting on him to leave, and he was like, "Hey, Fred needs your number." I was like, Fred Woods? He was like, I don't know. They didn't even know Frederick Woods. That's what kind of makes me even iffy if they are in the same business.
I think they're skirting the system, but that's what it looks like.
There's no doubt about it.
That's
yeah.
what we think, but
Yeah.
just getting that hard proof
Yeah.
is the difficult part.
That's why I think I don't think we'd be overstepping our bounds if we did that, but I think that's something the city needs to pursue through legal to make that happen. Because that's easy to check, because asking that contractor, who's your contractor? Who did you hire? Did you hire P2 or did you hire?
Who you paying?
But do you want to put them, try again for the May, for P2, is that what?
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, that would be my opinion. Let's put him down for what is that a May meeting?
Yeah.
And give him one more shot to get here. And in the meantime, I'd like to ask, legal, if there's a way that we can ask the general contractor who did he hire them as P2? Or, that's the way we find out. I mean, that's an easy catch. And, who did you,
Who's your contract with?
is it with P2 or is it with, and if we catch him working all over the city under the guise that he's working for, you can't work for two companies.
Correct.
So I guess I would make that as a motion to table it for now.
Okay.
Is that a motion?
I think we need to make it a motion to keep it clean.
I'll second it.
Second.
Motion to second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Anything carries. All right. Staff reports.
So we are making an effort to check journeyman's cards, as you can tell, make sure vans, work vehicles are labeled correctly. And in this process, we've come across another electrical contractor who he has a few employees, but most of his employees are subcontractors. Which we explained to him that his journeymen have to be employees of his company, and he has to have one on the job at all times. In order to qualify as a journeyman, we need 2 documents from him. And make sure I get this correctly. We need 2 documents. One has 1 or more years practical electrical experience. It doesn't say where, right? It just says. And number 2 is a letter of recommendation from the holder of the license with whom he's been employed for 1 year or more, or satisfactory substitute. Then the ordinance goes on to say the Board of Electrical Examiners shall require written proof of any of the above qualifications. Shall be the responsibility of the applicant to provide such definite proof of their application. So here's the question. If a licensed electrician has been subbing out his electrical work for 2, 3, 4 years and wants to hire some of those people to become his licensed journeyman, do they have to be on his payroll for a year? Even though they have the 1-year experience, they don't have it with his company.
Well, do they have proof that they've been doing that for a living?
Well, I mean, other than him just writing a letter saying they've been doing my work for 2-3 years as a subcontractor. And
He should be able to show some kind of proof that he's paid them.
I guess a W-9, I'm not familiar with all those terms, but would that be sufficient for y'all is the question.
Some sort of proof that they've worked for him.
The other issue we kind of come into in these conversations is, so we know you have to be a license holder to pull the permits. You have to have a license holder or licensed journeyman on the job at all times. The ordinance really doesn't address the other employees that are on the job, actually doing the work. If you will, the journeyman supervising the work. The employees, the subcontract, can you use subcontractors to actually do the work even though the journeyman is licensed or is an employee of the electrical contractor? Does that make sense? I mean, the ordinance is kind of silent on that, and so I don't know if we need to clarify, and that would kind of help with the P2 issue we're having
A
too.
subcontractor is, I'm a subcontractor. Everybody here, most of the time, are subcontractors.
Yeah.
We have to be licensed.
Right.
So his subcontractors have to be licensed. They can't work under his license.
Okay.
So
Unless they work for him.
They got to be,
They wouldn't be a subcontractor.
they got to be employees.
Employed, not
Yes,
a
okay, okay, I just want to make sure. Okay. I just want to make sure we're heading in the right direction. So I think what we're going to do from here, because some of the people I've talked to, most of them I've talked to, they want to come into compliance. They just, for some reason, claim they were not aware of these rules. So we're going to send out a letter, all licensed contractors, explaining some of these rules, that the vehicles have to be identified, your journeyman have to be licensed on the job at all times and stuff like that. And then we're going to go back to doing what we've been doing here, is enforcing some of these requirements. So just
Just a clarification on the vehicle identification. That's only on company-owned vehicles, right? 'Cause if-
yeah, you got to have, I think, the way I take it, you got to have at least one company vehicle at the job, all times identifying who you are.
I don't think I've ever read that, but
Okay, well, and I may be reading something into it, I'm not.
I just thought that they had to be, all your company vehicles had to be lettered if you're working inside the city of Murfreesboro. I run into that issue with, especially, you can get the magnetics to put on the side of the vehicle, but nobody wants to put a magnetic sign on the
Yeah.
side of a $30,000 truck.
Let me see if I can find that section real quick.
How are we going to enforce the subcontractors? You know, if you have your employee journeyman working for your electrical contractor, and there are other guys that are pulling wire, are we gonna have to ask for their W-2s? Are we asking, I mean, how are we gonna say that they are not employees?
I guess when you ask them who you work for, I work for myself.
Journeyman, when they come in to get proof, and that's one thing I do always tell them with the journeyman, that's the proof that I usually I like, is the W-2. I said, you can black out everything that's personal, but give me that year. I want to see that they worked with you that year. So that's usually the best proof for the journeyman.
Right.
But like the others on the job, you really can't, we don't require that to have one on there.
As long as you got one journeyman, that's all
Yeah,
you
that's
got
all
to
the
have on the
requirement
job. isn't it?
That's correct, but that journeyman is overlooking your employees, not your subcontractor.
Right, right.
And that's just a loophole that they're using to be able to do this, is, well, I don't need a license, I'm gonna work for everybody that's got a license. And, they can work a little cheaper than people can because they're not having the requirements that we do.
How would
I
we,
appreciate the DJs looking at them, somebody's checking on this, it needs to
Spend a
be
lot of money
done.
on it themselves.
how would we be able to tell, I mean, because if we come up and ask for journeyman, we can't, how would we can't ask, like, I also gotta have proof that they work for you, that they're not subcontractors. How would we go about that? Because if you start getting into that kind of business, it's
I
going,
don't know that you can.
yeah. So basically, as long as I go up and ask for adjournment, somebody can show me proof of one. I mean,
I guess one way to see that is if you see this same guy working on multiple different jobs that under different contractors, that will be
Okay.
probably a clue for you.
Okay. I mean, I'll keep an eye out, because I see, in some of these subdivisions, there's always somebody wiring houses on them now, so.
Yeah, all it says is all vehicles used by electrical contractor or the contractor's employees primarily to transport materials or tools shall be properly identified while on the job where electrical work is being performed. So that's why at least one vehicle needs to be identified, I would assume, but.
It's nice for us definitely as the inspector, knowing who's on the job working though, like as far as vehicles, so we don't have to go inside.
Is that commercial and industrial and?
It's for any licensed electrical contractor in the city.
I guess
Do what?
my own personal issue with that is, I've had that issue of trying to, I may have a guy that, one of my superintendents may drive his own vehicle because he has to take his daughter to work.
Yeah.
And I can't, so, and he won't put a magnet on his truck.
Yeah. I would also assume he wouldn't transport materials or.
But, he may have his tools or, of course, most of the time, on our jobs, they're big enough to where.
There's probably one of y'all's trucks out there, isn't it? Yeah.
And, the delivery trucks, all of our trucks have them. But
Yeah, yeah.
I don't see a way to be able to make my employees put the name of my company on their vehicle.
Yes, I agree.
I do have a question that got brought up to me from Romanoff Electrical. They asked, and I told them I'd ask and see, because of course they're subbing work out, and there's like Romanoff, you're not allowed to have a sign, their name on the side of your vehicle. And I was like, can we put something in the window stating that we're working for Romanoff? Like just something we can put in our window while we're there on the job and pull out whenever they leave. Would that be sufficient enough, or?
I'm a little confused on it. This is a subcontractor?
That's what Romanoff uses a bunch, is subcontractors.
Well, those subcontractors have to be licensed.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think what the board's saying is if you're gonna do electrical work, whether you're a laborer,
yeah,
all the way up to just below journeyman, you gotta be an employee of the electrical contractor.
okay, so,
And if, there's nothing in the ordinance, and the way I read it, that, whether the sign is in the window, on the side of the car, doesn't really matter as long as it's identified.
because I'm pretty sure that, Romanoff told me themselves they use a bunch of subcontractors, and that's why that they can't have their vehicles labeled.
But then, they're breaking the rules.
Rules too, yeah.
Okay.
Anyone using a subcontractor that's not licensed. Yeah.
Now that that's clarified, I will mention it to them then.
His subcontractor is no different than he is to the general.
Correct.
He's a subcontractor, and then he's got subcontractors. Those subcontractors have to be licensed.
Okay. Because I know they're a big company, and they don't have, I know they have Romanoff vehicles, and they have actual Romanoff employees, but most of the time that people that are doing the rough ends and trim outs are sub-crews. I do know for a fact. And they have other guys, they have actual employees that set temporaries, build services, and do punch lists and troubleshooting.
That's a big problem.
You're gonna have to hire.
I have a lot of people to call, want sub work, and they don't have license. Of course, we don't sub to them. But there's a whole lot of them doing that.
I think this letter going out hopefully will clarify that and maybe bring that to light, that
Yes.
you're skirting the rules when you do that, and you're putting your license in jeopardy. That's the only way to make this happen, I think, is that you could get the knowledge out there. If you're caught, then you have to come in front of the board, and we could pull your license. Anything else?
On the next agenda, this is just going by the ordinance. Ordinance says every year we're supposed to elect a new chairman. not to say anything negative about the current chairman, but we're just supposed to go through that process every year, so on the next
You can
agenda.
nominate the same chairman.
Yeah, that's up to y'all.
Or you don't have to.
My suggestion, everybody attend the next meeting otherwise. So that'll, just so you know, that'll be on the next agenda.
We can't do that now?
Probably needs to be on the agenda, I would think. I mean, just to,
I got it.
But you can keep the one you have. if you like 'em.
If you're wanting it, so we can do it today.
I guess Tony doesn't think he's gonna be at the next meeting.
I do have one question, if that's all you had.
That's all I had.
If we have an out-of-state, let's just use Alabama for instance. If an out-of-state contractor wants to come in the city of Murfreesboro and do work, do they have to either take a test, or can they reciprocate with the state of Tennessee and then come get our license?
Almost all the out-of-state ones that we have that come in have the Tennessee state C. They have it. They carry it, I guess, different states, but, you'll say, do you have a Tennessee state C license? Yes, I do. Then, they qualify.
Yeah.
All of them pretty much. I've never really had one from out of state that didn't have it. So
But if
big
they-
companies like that, they pretty much, I think, have a license probably everywhere, really.
The state does reciprocate with others, not all of them, okay, but some of them, and if they can.
And at the
what-
state level, I don't know how that works,
Yeah,
but I just know.
Once they get the CE license, then we give them our local license.
They reciprocate with the Cs, I think 7 different states, and the way they have to get their Tennessee state license is, take the,
Business and logs in.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
it, and then they get their Tennessee state license.
Yeah.
I guess okay, then, as long as they've got the CE, they come see you, they don't have to come to us.
No, because we reciprocate with that CE.
Okay. Should we think about, and the reason I'm saying this, and I know in some reading that I've done, I'm getting mine in Alabama. And I'm having to wait 3 months to get in front of the electrical board. And so, now, and the weird thing about it, they make me have a contractor's license also, electrical contractors, as electrical subcontractors. I don't have to go in front of the board for that, but I have to wait to get my electrical. So I applied, but I'm having to wait 3 months to get on, get in front of their board. And I'm wondering.
Up to you, I think you would be surprised at how many people you would have coming before you. Because licensing is not it's not small anymore.
Oh, I know that.
And that's the thing, is it's a lot. And that would be up to y'all. I mean, if y'all, but I think you would be surprised, and then the ordinance, of course, would have to change, because it does say that we reciprocate. So it's in the ordinance that we reciprocate with them. So you would have to change the ordinance. It is.
I know our state, when I got on the Tennessee state, they say is, and it's worded something like, if you're gonna make our people do something, then we're gonna make your people do that.
And see, that's why we do the metro license that we reciprocate with. I
Yeah.
think we still make them, we reciprocate, but we still make them come before you all to say, yeah, you can have our license, because Metro won't let us
Yeah.
not go before their board. So it's kind of one of those same things. If Metro's gonna make our guys go up there, then we're gonna make their guys come. It was kind of one of those deals. So Metro, technically, we reciprocate with, but they still have to come before y'all, just for you guys to say, yeah, you can have it, type thing.
I just wondered if that's something we want to protect our city.
Yeah.
If they're gonna make us wait 3 months, that kind of puts a squeeze on you if you got a job and you got a general
Well,
contractor that,
Yeah.
say, hey, I need to come put a slab in. I can't.
It'll do the same thing to us, especially in some of these bigger jobs, where electrical contractors may have to wait 3 months to come before the board. They'll be screaming and yelling at us.
And they may decide it's too much trouble to do. I just won't go and do the job.
Or it may bring the,
And to be honest, I'm gonna put my 2 cents in, not that you asked for it. I'm not a big fan of that. I asked for a 24-hour turnaround. This is not a huge thing. I figure 24 hours is not, and it's like I'm pulling their teeth out one by one, because I'm like, from the time you turn this packet in, you've got to give me 24 hours, because, you know, I can't, I've got other things I'm doing as well. I'm asking for 24 hours before you come in to pull the permit and things. I'll have you in the system, and you would think I was taking every tooth out of there. So I just don't know. If I tell them 3 months, that's just I'm not a fan of that.
And I'm not either.
I mean, am I honest?
I mean, I like the way you're doing it. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's right. If you're going to reciprocate, reciprocate.
Yeah.
As long as I can prove, I can send you the state, you know, I had to go to the state and get a letter from them showing that my test results, that that's business and law.
You know, and I don't think 24 hours is a lot. I'm like, I know you probably couldn't go to the state or Metro or somewhere else and get one within 20, but you would think 24 hours.
It's 3 to 5 days to get that back from the
Yeah.
state, which I thought was great. I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty good. But then to know that, and I just happened to miss December's board meeting, but now it's, like I said, it'll be March before their board will look at it.
And because it is so big now, that's the thing too, is it's so big, it's, I don't, you know, give me a little bit of time to sit down and look at it. I have other jobs I'm doing as well, so 24 hours tends to not make them happy. I can't imagine what 3 months would do.
I might look into that a little bit more and kind of make sure that, you know, they're not gonna surprise me with my license, but all the reading and all the talking, but I actually called down there and I talked to them and said, no, you have to go before the board.
I've been amazed at this month how many have called for new licenses. And of course, you know, it's a bad month because it's in the middle of renewals as well, so it's just chaos. My cubicle looks like it exploded, but, I mean, there's been 7 or 8 just in January, brand new ones that want licenses. I think I've had 3 this week that I've sent packets to, so I don't know where they're all coming from.
Sorry about that. All right, that's all. I guess that's all I've got. That's all y'all have. Motion to adjourn.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.